Josh, and this episode is brought to you by Great Lakes Discs. Whether you're looking for cool new gear or your new favorite disc, Great Lakes Discs has what you need. Click the link in the link tree and you'll see the Great Lakes Discs link. Click that and start your shopping today. While you're on the link tree, you'll also see a link for Idio Sports. If you want to take your game to the next level, make sure you get Idio shoes on your feet. The only disc golf shoes made by disc golfers for disc golfers. Also use my discount code disc.seeker to save money on your next order. Without further ado, I'll let my guest fully introduce himself, where he's from, and how he even got into disc golf.
Hey Josh, thanks for having me on. My name's Ben Campbell. I'm the head disc golf coach at Houghton University. I am from Gainesville, New York originally, which is a tiny village in Wyoming County. Less than 200 people the last time I checked. I now live in Houghton. I've lived here for the last 7 years and loving it. I started playing disc golf in 2018. So the first time I saw a disc golf basket, I was at a soccer league in Campbell, Savona at a high school. And I kid you not, and I'm not trying to be funny, but I thought it was a trash can. I had no idea what this thing was. And I'm like, what is this? Like chains? I thought it was missing a bag and never saw another one again. And then I played some Ultimate in college. I played college level soccer. And then once those things kind of ended, somehow disc golf found me. My wife and I worked at a fair and we delivered flyers around the county. And we delivered flyers to a golf course in Warsaw called Hidden Acres. Shout out to Hidden Acres. They don't exist anymore. So that's where we were introduced to disc golf because they put a course in. And so I played like twice that year. That's how I started playing.
So your first ever round, what did you think of it? And like, how did you throw? Were you throwing forehand at first or backhand?
How bad was I is the true question. So they gave us discs to borrow. A couple lightning discs, like I think it was called the number one distance driver or something like that. I can still remember it. It was orange. And then I think maybe there was a DX Beast that they let us use. So I was definitely backhand only, but I quickly found that I was way better at forehand than I was at backhand, and pretty much always have been. I have to work way harder on my backhand form than forehand. But no, it was a lot of fun. It shared a golf course, so you kind of, and I've never played ball golf either. So, you kind of had to be, kind and courteous to those playing. But it was a lot of fun. I still think about that course in my mind now. I think the best I ever shot there. So it was all par threes. I think the best I ever shot was like 16 over. But it closed the next year, I think. So I didn't have a lot of chances at it. Once in a while, I'm in bed and I'll think about all the holes and how I wish I could play that again and shoot under par.
Yeah. So you still are forehand dominant, right? Or are you half and half now?
No, I'm forehand dominant. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not a forehand flex guy necessarily, a little bit, but yeah, I just shoot way better with a forehand, especially in the woods. So I try to do
Yes. Finally, someone who speaks my language.
that. There you
Yeah,
go.
I'm forehand all the time. Like if I have to backhand, it's like, oh, I hope this goes in the direction I'm trying to go. But like
Yeah,
if it's forehand, I'm like, oh, perfect. Don't even think about it.
yeah, point and shoot. That's what I call it.
Yeah. So how did you get to getting up to the pro, like the pro level you compete at? So like What type of practicing and training did you do to get yourself to where you are now?
Sure. So just for the record, I'm a pro, but I consider myself to be semi-pro. I'm happy with my 966 rating right now. I'd like to be higher, obviously, but uh, for how much practicing I do, it's probably pretty fair because I don't actually practice very much right now. Like you and I were talking beforehand, I've got a couple kids, and it can be difficult to try to get some time to do that. If they're interested in coming with me, then that makes it easier. But I'll just say that like practice is continual. And I used to think, yeah, if I just work hard every single day, I put hours in every single day, I'm going to be where I want to be, which was partly true. Um, but unfortunately, if you don't continue out that rigorous, not that an hour is that rigorous, but if you don't continue that, you're not going to improve and you're probably going to fall off. So I would say like, I try to be very diligent with the time that I get. If I get a half an hour or an hour a day, and most of the time it's really up to me. If I'm feeling like I have enough energy to do it, sometimes I just need to get off the couch and go do it. Um, but normally I try to just pick something very specific to work on. So if I'm going to putt, that's fine. But as long as I have a game plan, if I'm going to work on straddle putts or if I'm going to work on step putts. Normally, I need to work around the 25-footer range because in practice that feels so easy, but out on the course, I can't hit one to save my life. So normally that's where I spend most of my time for putting. For other stuff, I try to work on it all the angles that I can, even if I don't want to throw backhand. Being comfortable with a hyzer flip, being comfortable with anhyzers. I secretly have a roller obsession, but I don't get to use that at Houghton much because the grass is way too thick, or there's no grass at the woods to do that. But I love rollers. Normally, when I'm frustrated with other practicing, I just start throwing rollers and tomahawks. That's not as secret of an obsession, but I love tomahawks too. But yeah, normally like I don't practice the courses a lot. I just don't go out and play a lot of rounds. Once in a while, I like to for fun. But normally it's like an hour of field session where I'm just throwing approaches or just throwing forehands. But normally I don't work on those as much because I don't need as much work for that.
Yeah,
Obviously, all of my game needs improvement, uh, but I try to do with what I can.
yeah. So what do you think has been like the one major key that you've seen the biggest improvement in your game?
Mental game.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm pretty used to be pretty competitive. I would say I've kind of eased off on the competitive juices over the years. Not to say that I don't want to win, but um, as you would know, that disc golf is very much like me versus the course, me versus myself. Um,
Hmm.
there's little that I can do to really change how you play, unless I'm going to be a jerk, which I try not to be. I try to be pretty kind, but so so that mentality had to shift when I started playing disc golf because it used to be, like in soccer. I played in college for a couple of years, and it's very much like, how can I be better than this other guy? And so my first time out on the course, I felt that same way. I was like, oh, I need to beat this guy. And I may have beat him, but it was very much I had to switch my mentality and understand that like the course is probably going to beat me up way more than this other guy is.
Yeah,
And also understanding that I've been in team sports my whole life, and this is pretty much all individual. The collegiate game, which we'll talk about later, isn't like that. But yeah, so understanding that like if I blow a putt, there's nobody else to blame but myself. And not only do I have to like understand that, but I also have to to realize that and still be able to like myself through that, and be my biggest fan and not just my biggest enemy. And the other thing that I would say is just like, I'm not a huge thrower. I don't throw super far, and I'll be the first to tell you that. So trying to figure out how to utilize my game for what it is right now out on the course. So,
Hmm.
I love forehands like we've talked about, but there's been a couple times where I've practiced rounds. We'll just say Emory because we'll shout out that course. But like, I'm throwing a forehand on pretty much every single drive. But I remember playing a tournament there, and I couldn't throw a forehand in my life. And to be able to trust in the rest of my game, but also to be able to switch and call an audible and say, okay, I gotta switch my game. I can't do that anymore right now. And those things have been helpful. But really, it's been trying to lower my expectations about how well I think I can do, and just be a little more adaptive to what's going on in the moment.
Yeah. So here's a good question for you, building off that. So after a round where you struggled, like where your forehands just did not click, how do you mentally get back to like being confident with your forehand?
I think it's just like, my wife's a math teacher, so this is a little bit for her, but just understanding that, like, statistics wise, I mean, if you go up and you pull up to 15 feet, and I don't know, 90 times out of 100, you're going to make that. But if I miss it 10 times in a row, like, that feels pretty crappy. But I have to understand that, like, okay, well, if I believe that unless something has completely changed about how I throw, eventually I'm going to get the putts, or I'm going to get the throws that I need to. Probably, I would say, like, mid round, it's hard. Normally, if I throw a couple bad forehands or a couple bad backhands in a row, I'll tell myself, all right, I'll throw one more, and if that feels better, then maybe it was just something little. But if it still doesn't feel good, then I have to, I have to switch. But normally after a round, normally for me, because I don't play as much as I want, it can be a little bit of fatigue. I might feel a little in my bicep or my shoulder. So sometimes that's all it is just a little bit of overuse. Um, but for the most part, I go back the next day and throw, and I'm like, where was this yesterday? Because I'm on fire right now. So I would say that's normally kind of how I go through and try to debrief on those.
Yeah, because like what I went through last year was where like after a bad round of where the forehand just wasn't feeling good, I'd go to do a field work all night, like the next day for hours, and just kill my arm, and then get like no better at it because now my arm's exhausted.
Yeah.
Definitely was a big change of just letting it be and be like, you know what, it'll eventually regain itself. It'll be
Mhm.
fine.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'll say about tournament play is, um, there are times where I have a game plan of throwing something softer, like hyzer flipping something. And when I get to the tournament, even if I don't feel nervous or anything like that, the tendency is just to throw harder. So sometimes I'm like throwing everything because I'm just throwing, even though I don't throw very hard, I'm throwing way harder than I would normally. And sometimes I just have to try to think about that and realize, oh yeah, 10 holes ago, I was just like chucking it, and I really needed to have a little more control.
Yeah. So, what are you throwing this year? Like, are you mixed bag, like open, or are you just one manufacturer?
Yeah, so my dream was always to be sponsored. And I have a couple little sponsorships. Sponsored through Squala, and I'm sponsored through DG Max Wax, which is kind of fun. Um, So I'm not sponsored by anybody besides those two, and so I throw a mixed bag. I putt with Wardens. I used to putt with Judges, but I don't like the bead anymore for some reason. So I switched to Wardens, which I like, and I probably won't ever switch because I just don't see a need. For the most part, though, I mean, I don't have every favorite disc golf buyer's disc. I've got a Berg, which everybody has, which is great. But mostly, like it's mostly mixed. But I have been using more Discraft. Most of the tournaments I run are through them, which means that I get wholesale pricing. So that's kind of hard to pass up. But uh, the Destroyer is always my go-to. I love Thunderbird as my overstable fairway. Throw a lot of zones. Uh, I sure I could think of other things off the top of my head, but yeah, for the most part, it's Discraft Innova, and a little bit of dynamic and some Axiom and MVP.
Nice. That's pretty cool that you're open like that. So you get like a little mix of everything.
Yeah, I also have. So I find a lot of discs in the pond here at Houghton. With most of them have names, and people don't want them back or don't ever call me back. And so after they sit on my shelf for a year, I decide it's about time I start throwing them. So if I have a slot in my bag that I feel is missing, I just go to the shelf and find it. But yeah, for the most part, that's kind of my bag. I carry a couple nukes and a couple destroyers. Some are flippier than others. I'm sure everybody has the same kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. So how did you get into being a head coach for disc golf at Houghton University? Like, how did that even come about? And like, what made you decide, hey, I want to be a head coach?
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to push you back a few years, but I will. I promise I'll get to that answer. So I've always been big into sports. It's been a big part of my life. Like I said, I played collegiate soccer, and it was always my dream to play professionally. Wasn't good enough, so I had to give that up pretty quickly. Um, but I always wanted to be a coach. So I've coached soccer for the last 10 years, and I've kind of continued through that. Even here at Houghton, I'm an assistant women's soccer coach with the team, which is a very small part of what I do here, but I definitely enjoy all of that. So that's always been my dream and desire was if I can't play professionally, then I would coach. I thought it would be soccer, um, but now it's disc golf. So I got a job here in the post office after college just to try to get my foot in the door because I thought that if I worked at the university, then maybe someday I could work in the athletics department. And safe to say, that's actually not how it works, but it did work for me. But that's not really how it works. So I kind of had to learn the hard way that that wasn't how it worked. Long story short, I quit. And then right about the time that I was quitting, they put about the year before they put a course in, and I went just nuts about it. The closest course before that was like 40 minutes away, and it was a 9-hole course in Geneseo, at SUNY Geneseo, which I still play. But yeah, that was a lot of dedication. So when this course opened, I emailed everybody I could think of at the university to say like I want to be a part of this. Um, I've been playing for a couple years, and then every day after work, because I was part time, I just played the Woods course. My wife and I helped install the course, and we met the designer, um, and so I was the first club advisor for the team. And then 5 months later is when COVID hit and shut down the college. So I was no longer in my club advising role. uh, and I didn't actually ever get to do anything with it. So then there was an announcement that they were transitioning disc golf specifically into a club sport, but a more dedicated club sport with a full time head coach, a travel budget, that kind of thing, to really just the athletic director believed that disc golf was great for our community and that he just believed in it. So I applied for that position and did not get it. Uh,
Oh man.
so yeah, so I didn't get it. I didn't know what to do, but I quit my other job and I was a stay at home dad for 2 years, which was pretty fun. And so I was an assistant for the disc golf coach. His name was Guthrie Collins. He lives in Michigan now. If you're watching this, Guthrie, I miss you. Uh, but no, he was great, and he let me help out for the first 2 years of the program. And then he told me that he was leaving and going back to Michigan with his wife, and recommended me for the position.
Ooh.
And that scared the absolute days out of me. And so I think I waited until the last day that the application was open to apply. I was so nervous. But I did get the job. I think that was your question. Yeah, so that's how I got the position. Was I have a background in coaching, but I just still think that that's what I wanted to do was to be a head coach.
Yeah. So when did the Field of Dreams get put in? Did it get put in years after the wood course, or like was it part of the whole building?
Yeah, so the Woods course went in November 6th of 2019. I'm pretty sure it was that day, and it was like 25 degrees out,
Ooh.
and we were putting baskets in. And then the Field of Dreams went in the following summer. I couldn't tell you the exact date. It's been redesigned twice since then.
Oh.
It yeah, it had some changes that have been very helpful for the course to be a little more enjoyable. So I believe that one in 2020, and I will tell you, and this is not confidential, but kind of, there has been a dream from the athletics director to build a third course. Uh, but I don't
Whoa.
know if that's ever going to happen. So, and we haven't talked about it in several years, but there
Yeah.
definitely is room for a third course, but I don't think that's going to happen for a while.
Yeah. What kind of style would it be? Because you already got a really tight wooded course, and you got a big bomber course.
I think it'd be a good mix. Probably
Okay.
longer wooded holes, which is kind of what we as a disc golf team want. Uh, and we've done some safari holes in the woods for practice purposes. So it would probably be something like that. But like I said, it's probably not going to happen for a long time if I had to guess. But yes, we love disc golf in Houghton. There's no doubt about that.
That's really cool. So, how do you structure like your practices? Like is it just like, oh, we'll work on this today, field work, we'll do this, or is it like, let's go out and do practice rounds and prep for tournaments?
Yeah, both. Um, just depends on the time of year. We have a lot of music majors, and music is a very rigorous study here. So there can be times where it's hard to get all the team together. So it does tend to be a little more individualized practice sessions. Um, in the winter, we go inside. We have a 200-meter track indoor field house at Houghton. You would have walked by it for the tournament. So
Yeah.
we practice in there in the winter, which is really nice. Yeah, it's great. But so normally, like, it just depends on time of year, but I try to break it down. try to keep it fun. So if we do putting, we do something called a flip drill. You put a putter down. If you make it, you flip the putter back. If you miss, you flip the putter forward. We do that for a while, and then when, I don't know, 5-10 minutes goes by, wherever your most challenging spot has been, we'll hammer that for 5 to 10 more minutes, to really understand that that's like my tester range. That's where I need the most reps at. But we do a lot of stations for putting, so a lot of obstacle course stuff. Keeps it fun. I try to make it as realistic as possible. I'm a big proponent of knee putting. I don't know why, but it always seems to be that that's where I land. And so I need to practice that a lot. Depending on the course you play, you may never have to do that. For the most part, I'm a pretty relaxed coach, but we have a game plan, and we're going to try to execute that in practice. I will say that sometimes, like I said, depending on what our schedule looks like with tournaments, it might be a little more like just go out and throw today, or whatever you feel like you need to work on, just go do that today, instead of rollers only practice, which we don't do. I did a tomahawk demonstration my first year, and it was mostly negative reviews. So I've tried to stay away from that, but we have talked about utility shots and the benefit of that, and when you could use that. But yeah, for the most part, it's normally this is what we're going to work on today, and for the most part, it's several different things. So we'll work on some for half an hour, and then we'll move on. But yeah, for the most part, it's like if we can get teams involved, we will. But disc golf is just individual by nature.
Yeah. So, do you do like form work, and then if you do you watch the form yourself and then adjust it, or do you send it out to somebody to kind of help you advise you how to correct somebody's form?
Yeah. Uh, and saying this as humbly as I can, I do all the form correcting. Um,
That's cool.
so I will say that there are guys on our team, shout out Zach Sisson and Carter and some previous guys that don't need a lot of form work. So I don't really give them a lot of form critique. But for the most part, all of our other disc golfers didn't start on the team super high rated, and that was just kind of the nature of it here. And so I think I've gotten pretty good with helping beginners get a pretty solid form. And then from there, yeah, so we'll film each other a lot in practice. I try to help them understand what I'm picking uh, out of their form and why, and then trying to help them see that in their own form and understand, things about their form that they could improve. And then the other thing is that they'll film each other, and they'll maybe not necessarily know uh, why they're rounding, but they'll at least be able to see that they're rounding. And hopefully, which that's kind of a dead horse that I beat a lot, is rounding. But hopefully, we're able to correct some of that. But I do a lot of individual lessons. I'm always open for that for our disc golfers. They can come anytime to my office. Normally, we schedule in advance, and we'll go down and throw and talk about that. And for me, there's not necessarily a one. Um, my boy Scott Stokely would say there's not necessarily one uh, form to fit everybody. Obviously, you have to have some similar mechanics,
Hmm.
but for the most part, everybody's body's a little different. So trying to help them understand that and just find something consistent that they can just repeat and repeat and repeat.
Yeah. I I'm not sure if you've ever seen me throw, especially during the tournament. I'm not sure if you glanced over at one of my throws, but like I have the most unique form like humanly possible.
Sure.
It somehow works though. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I think I saw you on hole 16 of the Field of Dreams, And then I think that's all I ever saw you of that entire tournament.
Yeah. it's it's very interesting. Some
Okay.
people are like some people are like wondering how the disc even flies after I release it.
Yeah, that's fair.
So is weight training part of your team's training, or is it more so just focus on explosive movements and stretching?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, a little bit of both. I need to stretch every day. Uh, I don't always stretch every week, so I need to do that for my own self. I love to lift. You probably can't tell, but I do enjoy lifting, especially in the off season, mostly for my own mental health benefit.
Mhm.
So this year we actually partnered with our strength and conditioning coach here, which he uses. He does for all the other teams, and so we were able to partner with him, and so that was a great addition to our program. I'm not a big yoga guy, but I do like to stretch. And so part of the strength and conditioning program isn't to get bulky and massive, but it's really been for injury prevention,
Mhm.
and mobility and flexibility. Obviously, explosiveness from the lower body is a huge part of it. And so trying to incorporate some of those things as well. Yeah. So we're very new as a team with it, but those are things that we're all very familiar with as a part of training for disc golf.
Yeah. Now, speaking of training, let's say you have like someone like myself on your team who is forehand dominant, and like the hips are work really well in forehand, and then when they go to backhand, the hips are like non-existent. How do you get them to start engaging the hips in the backhand as fluently as they do in the forehand?
Yeah, that's a tough question without really seeing your form. But I think some simple things to do would be to take a resistance band, and then go like knee height, and then just work on pushing that lead leg. Are you a righty, Josh?
Yes, I'm
Righty
righty.
backhand? So just try to work on pushing that forward, and then work on planting, and almost like a hip thrust. So I would say you don't even have to go throw a disc, but just to do that motion with your lower body. And that's an easy way to just break down part of your form and just hammer that for like forever, really, but for a while before you move on to incorporate a lot. I'll add to that most of our new people on the team, they've only played for 6 months or for the last couple of years, uh, maybe not last couple of years, but last year. I don't teach them a run up. I tell them we're not going to do a run up, and the purpose and my reasoning behind that is that so many people, when they first start to throw, incorporate a run up before they're even ready. And so there's no lower body explosiveness there. There's nothing engaged with their lower body and their upper body. There's a lot of rounding. There's a lot of almost moonwalking. And so I would teach them just to stand still, and then we, slowly work towards a run up. So unfortunately, I can't give you a perfect answer to your question, but I would say it just has to do with just simple mechanics and body fluidity that you probably just need to work on a little bit more in your own game.
Yeah, cool.
Sorry, that wasn't a great answer.
No, that's perfectly fine because I mean you haven't been able to see me throws, so it
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. So as a head coach for disc golf, how do you set up like the schedule? Like, do you just reach out to teams? Hey, we want to play against you guys, and then do you guys figure out a course, or do teams actually just find tournaments and take their teams to the tournament?
Yeah, that's another great question. So a little bit of both. We are in the Northeast Conference. So it used to be the Western New York Conference, and some teams have come and gone throughout the years. It used to be Houghton, University at Buffalo, RIT, St. Bonaventure, and Brockport. St. Bonaventure doesn't have a team anymore. Brockport doesn't have a team. So it was just the three of us, the three amigos, if you will. We love the UB guys and the RIT guys. So it was like, hey, this is our conference tournament. We have to have this to go to the national tournament. I always like to have a sanctioned round for singles, and then we normally do an unsanctioned for teams. So normally, like it's a little more coordinated than just let's pick a day. But yeah, it is a little more casual because we all know those guys, and I think they love us too. But we definitely love them. So normally, like we would play here, but we've played at Bond Lake before. We've played
Ooh,
at
okay.
Parma before for our tournaments. So now we've added WPI, which is Worcester Polytech Institute out of Massachusetts, and Redeemer out of Hamilton, Ontario, to our conference. So we definitely have to structure our conference tournament better because of those two teams. So last year we played at Sullivan Town Park in Syracuse. If you haven't played there, it's a fun little course. Uh, so we had a great time there. But for the most part, it's here are the regional tournaments for the year, and then I'm going to try to figure out the ones that are best for our guys' schedule. So, like I said, a lot of our girls are music majors, and they have a lot of stuff on the weekend. And then we have two dual sport athletes on our team,
Ooh,
Zach Sisson, who's the highest rated disc golfer in New York State right now, and Reed Cockle. And so Zach plays on the basketball team here, and Reed plays men's volleyball. So trying to coordinate whatever day we can get them to our regional event, we will. So for the most part, like the Mid Atlantic hosts a tournament that's been at Gargoyle Park in Olean. That's been at Shawmut Depot. That's been at Failer Lake. And then last year it was at the new High Banks course in Salamanca, which I believe is the first course on a Native American reservation.
ooh, that's
Uh,
cool.
and that was designed by Avery Jenkins. So that was fun. So normally we play that one. I'm hoping to go to Toronto for the Redeemer hosts a regional event, and then maybe we'll make it to the one that WPI hosts. And normally I'd like to go to one in March. So we go to the uh, Liberty Flamethrower in Lynchburg. And normally we play New London and Ivy Hill.
That is
So
so
as the
cool.
coach, I get to practice. So that's pretty fun.
Woohoo.
But those are normally the events that we go to. And then every year we go to the national championship, which is pretty much the first week of April every year.
That's really cool. So when you go to tournaments and play like outside of your team and stuff, are you kind of actively recruiting at times? Like, do you see people like young kids getting ready to come to college, be like, "Hey, you should come check out our college. We got a disc golf team."
Yeah, recruiting has been probably the most challenging, and because of the fact that when I was a soccer player in high school, um, there are all these websites for recruiting, and now all of my colleagues here, which they're amazing by the way, but all of my colleagues here use a couple different websites. They also have a lot of connections with high school coaches. And so they could just put in, they're looking for, this person with this GPA that plays this sport. And I'm over here like, I don't get to do that. So, yeah, I definitely try. I try to sponsor some tournaments just to get our name out a little bit, especially in the New York area. Nothing against RIT or UB, but I believe in our program and our school, and so I do try to get some youth here, but it can be tricky. And in the grand scheme of things, there are a ton of youth down in the south, and Houghton is a little far for them. And people tend to get scared about the snow. And I said, we are not Buffalo, okay? We don't
Yeah,
get 6 feet in one night in November. we might get a couple feet, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it has been difficult, but I try to just be positive when I play, and try to be somebody that's kind and respectful, and I think our players are as well, and just try to get a positive name out for Houghton in the disc golf program. But there were definitely times, my first trip to nationals, I was an assistant, and at the time there were not too many women playing, and the women that were playing, half of them had a partner, and they compete in twos, and the other half didn't. And so I was chatting with all of the college women that did not have a partner, trying to convince them to transfer to Houghton, because we only had one girl too, uh, but that didn't work. Uh, but
Okay.
yeah, recruiting is definitely a big part of trying to build a team.
Yeah. So, out of all the places that your team has competed at, where's been the coolest place?
Oh, that's a tough one. In Failure Lake was pretty fun, but it was extremely windy. We had a guy who was shooting kind of out of his mind up until the last three holes, and then just absolutely got destroyed by the wind. But that one comes to mind. The national championship used to be at in Marion, North Carolina, at North Cove. They got hit by a pretty big hurricane a couple years ago, so I think they've kind of recovered. But they had three courses on the property, and so that was by far the coolest, because I could watch our Division 3 men's team on this course, and then basically across the driveway, our Division 1 guys are playing on the Boulders course and the Gorge and all that. So that was really cool. Now the national championship is in Rock Hill, so we play the USDGC course at Winthrop, and then there's several other courses in the area. So I can't actually give you an answer to one, but those. Oh, and I also have to say, New London and Ivy Hill are pretty cool too. So those definitely are on the list. Our first year as a program, we sent a team to Maple Hill. I did not go, but I would
What?
say that I didn't get the invite. But
Oh,
I would say that probably would have been pretty cool. And I haven't played there yet, so maybe one day we'll get to go. But yeah, those are some of the most memorable courses that we've played on.
yeah. So, how does college format actually work when it comes to tournament play? Because I've heard that it's completely different than what you'd normally go to if you go to like just a normal tournament.
Yeah. So each tournament's a little different, like the conference tournament. Um, so I'll just explain a little bit. Uh, Anybody that wants to play at the national championship can play, but they have to play in at least one conference event in the year. Most teams play several. Most teams travel for regionals, but there are a couple teams that only play in a conference event. And so the conference event, the only stipulation is you have to have at least one team round. So normally for us, we do a singles round and a team round. But when you go and play a regional tournament, which is how you would qualify to play in Division 2 or Division 1 at the national championship, it's not based on the other sports at your institution. It's solely based on if you won a bid at a regional. So at the regional tournament, you will play a mandatory singles round and then at least one teams round after that. Normally it's singles first on day one and then teams day two, but sometimes it's different depending on the tournament. So you play a singles portion, and you beforehand designate who is on your A team, B team, C team. If you only have one team, it's a lot easier. Uh, so whoever's on that team, they're going to compete together the entire weekend. So singles uh, is just singles, and then We take your score and then your three teammates' scores, and we add them all together, divide by four. That's your team score for the first round, or for the singles portion.
Mhm.
Um, and the little wrinkle is there have been times where we've competed with only three, normally in our C team, and we've competed against people that only have three. And so, how that works is in singles, you take the three scores, add them up, and then you take the worst score of the entire field of singles, and then you add two strokes to that, and then that's your fourth guy, and then you average it. So you do get punished for only having three guys. So that's how singles works. And then the rest of the format is four-man uh, best shot alternate doubles. So basically, yeah, it's so hard to explain, but player one and player two are teammates, and player three and player four are teammates. So player one and two would tee off on all the odd holes, and then three and four would throw the next shot. And then you just alternate from there until it goes in the basket. And then the next hole, the other two start. And then you just do that. So you play the best shot, but you alternate who's throwing. It's very unique to college disc golf. And I think maybe the Can Am does something similar. But that's pretty much all that I know that plays that format. Once in a while, you see it at a tournament just for fun, but um, yeah, so and then normally like at national championship level, we have one round of singles, and then we'll have a singles final, which doesn't count towards your team score, but just for the individual to have a little more highlight. And then we play three teams rounds after that. So that's kind of like I said that the team format is a lot more important. Uh, but disc golf is just a very individualized sport, so we still do a lot of stuff individually.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was a
like
long-winded explanation, but that's all
it
I
was
can do.
perfect. Yeah, because the first time I ever got introduced like to the college like type of play was Foundation did like some type of video, and they're like, "Oh, this is what they do at college." I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, yeah.
So
So if you want to do a deep dive into their YouTube channel, they did a video. I couldn't tell you what the name of it was. It was 2023, and I'm pretty sure. Now I'm dating myself. Um, yeah, so 2023, they went to the national championship, and they did like a fun challenge. So it was me as the assistant with our C team playing a course for practice, and they challenged our group. So I am in that video. If you can find it, good luck. And I won't spoil it, but uh, it was fun. But it was me versus Hunter on a hole.
were you impressed at how far he could throw?
No, because it was like a 250-foot shot.
Oh, okay.
So I would be. I actually did see him play a couple holes at Ivy Hill one year. He has helped out with running that tournament at the Liberty Flamethrower. And so one year they hosted a flex tournament the day before. And so we got to, while we were practicing at Ivy Hill, they were finishing their flex. And so I got to see him throw maybe the last hole. But yeah, I think he threw like a zone on this hole. So unfortunately, I didn't get to see either of them really throw very far.
Yeah. So as we're wrapping this up, you got any questions for me?
No, I think it's cool that you do a podcast, and I appreciate that you let me on. Um, what is your goal for disc golf?
My goal for playing wise, I want to get as good as I can and kind of like show everybody that forehand dominant players can actually make it and be really good. And as far as this podcast goes, I just want to get as many players on here as I can and get their story out there.
Cool. Well, Chandler Kramer would tell you that he's not forehand dominant, but there are definitely guys that used to be on the Pro Tour that are backhand dominant. So I think it's very possible. But yeah, Josh, I think you're doing cool stuff at the podcast, and I appreciated that you came and played the spring melt. Was that your first playing that one?
Yeah, it's my first. That was my first time seeing those courses, so it was really cool.
In the downpouring rain, there you go.
Yeah,
Did you lose a disc on hole 14 of the woods? Did it get washed away by the ditch?
it got lost in water, but I ended up someone on my card threw like their sticky ball thing in there, and ended
Oh,
up
okay.
pulling up like four different discs, and one of mine was in there.
So the Monday after the tournament, I went out and played around with some of our players here, and we found four more discs in that ditch. But that I've never seen that much water in that. That it was pretty crazy. But we never seem to have good weather at the spring melt, and people love to play it anyways. So I'm very appreciative for the Buffalo community and the Rochester guys and the Southern Tier guys that come out. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's a fun one for me.
it was really cool because like it downpoured during the wood section, which was fine because you don't need like maximum power for that. And as soon as we hit the Field of Dreams, it was clear. It was like perfect.
Yeah, it snowed several years ago, and so we were just shivering on hole 16 with a 20-mile-an-hour headwind ripping in our faces. But yeah, it wasn't too bad this year. But I met several people that didn't have a towel or an umbrella, and may I just say that you need both of those when you play in the rain.
I think I was one of those guys because I had one towel, I think, and then I didn't have an umbrella. I just wore a raincoat, and I thought that was gonna work.
That's fair.
So, last question I got for you is, what is your goals for this year, and how can people find you to follow you?
Yeah, yeah. So, like you said, I'm always trying to get better. Um, Eventually, I'm going to peak. I don't think I've peaked just yet. So last year, I set a lofty goal to be 960 rated. I think I started as a 940 rated, which I did hit. And so this year's goal is to hit 970. I don't know if that's going to happen. But to be honest with you, just to keep playing, I have always dreamed about being a world champion. And if that means being 90 years old and being an MP90 world champion, like hopefully Pete May will be someday, uh, that's what I'll do. But yeah, just trying to still have fun and enjoy it. Sometimes it feels like a job because part of my job is disc golf. So just trying to still enjoy the sport and just have a good time. Uh, and did you ask me where people can follow me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, like where can people find you to follow you?
Uh, you can find me on social media, but I don't post anything. BC126782 is my Instagram. That's my PDGA number. But a big shout out to my team. Follow them because that's where I post mostly. That's Houghton Disc Golf. Very easy on Instagram. Yeah. So I just want to say thanks again, Josh. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully I'll see you out on the course sometime this summer.
Yeah, Eagles. For the Eagle Wings tournament, I'll be coming out for that one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we're hosting an Eagles Wings experience, and we're doing a flex tournament, and Josh is going to sign up. So
Yeah, maybe
I'll
we
at
should.
least see you in September, but hopefully we'll see you before
Yeah,
that.
for the Eagles wing, let's sign up at the same time so we can get around it together.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Would do you know what the T pads would be? Like, are we doing split T pads? Or are we all playing the same?
Probably split. Yeah,
Okay.
probably. I won't make you throw from the longs just yet.
I mean, I wouldn't mind trying it.
That's fair.
All right, cool. All right,